He's picking all those blank lots off there. All right, at this time, we'll call to order the City of Kenai Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for November 8th, 2023. Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item A2, roll call, please.
Chair Twait.
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Fikes. Here. Commissioner Glendenning.
Here.
Commissioner Woodard is absent. Vice Chair Halstead is absent. Commissioner Costin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item A3, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda? Commissioner Greenberg.
I move to approve the agenda and consent agenda as written.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second. Would the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
You have approval of minutes, regular meeting of October 25th, 2023. You have new business action approval requesting an excused absence for the October 25th, 2023 regular meeting from Commissioner Greenberg. You have action approval granting a home occupation permit to allow home daycare for up to 8 children on a property located at 621 Fur Drive in the suburban residential RS zoning district, and that is your consent agenda.
All right, thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items just read in by the clerk? Are there any objections to approving the agenda and consent agenda? Seeing none, the items or the agenda and the consent agenda are approved. Takes us to scheduled public comments. We have none. Under item D, unscheduled public comments. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to an item not on tonight's agenda?
And if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to speak, please raise your hand. If you joined through the app, please press the raise your hand app, the raise your hand button, or if you joined through the phone, press *9 to raise your hand.
All right, seeing none, we will move on then to item E, consideration of plats. We have none. Item F, public hearings. We have one this evening. F1 is resolution PZ 2023-19, recommending approval to rezone the properties located at 103 Birch Street and 1202, 1204, and 1206 First Avenue from general commercial to suburban residential zoning district. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Greenberg.
I move to approve PZ 2023-19.
Second.
Second. All right, staff report. Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Twait and Commissioners, and welcome Council Member Dothett. And I'm sitting far away because I'm not feeling well, so hopefully I can see the screen from here. All right, so before you, as mentioned, is a resolution to rezone 4 parcels from general commercial to suburban residential zoning districts. An aerial view of it, of the locations, 1206 being reading from left to right. You got 1206, 1204, 1202, and then you have 103 Birch to the east, furthest east property. Current uses right now, there's only a single family residence at 1206 First Avenue with a couple of accessory structures on the adjacent lots under the same ownership, and then the rest are vacant. Proposed zoning again is suburban residential. The land use designation, or also land use classification as identified in the comprehensive plan, is mixed use. The total rezone area of these 4 parcels combined is approximately 2.36 acres. Surrounding uses to the north are residential, as well as to the east, and to the south you have the Swanson Square commercial use. And then to the west, you have the office and warehouse, and with the adjacent lot as outdoor storage. So the existing zoning is general commercial. The intent of it is really to limit it to commercial, and this is by far the widest array of commercial uses of all our zoning districts in the zoning code. And it's important to note the intent of it. As bolded there, it says new single and two-family residential uses and other non-commercial uses, except as provided in the chapter, are not permitted in this zone. So I find it interesting that it's right next to residential zones. The fact of the matter is that's what the current use is, or the current zoning. Therefore, this is why the applicant joined with the property owner of 103 Birch to rezone it, because there's already an existing single family. The intent of one of the owners is in the future her and her husband will hand the other properties down, and their children could have their own properties and build homes on those lots. And the 103 Birch, I think approximately 1.25 acre, the property owner is looking to subdivide it and build single-family homes on it. As noted in the staff report, in their letter submitted with the rezone, it was identified that they were proposing 4-lot subdivision, but I have received a preliminary plat that shows it's a 5-lot. So obviously that's a separate process. They'll have to meet the subdivision regulations in accordance to our code, and when this gets through, then we'll process that preliminary plat. As noted by the applicant, another reason for it is by rezoning this will allow for affordable housing and further prohibit commercial uses, which isn't, if you know the area, it just isn't really suitable. Mostly if there's an office and warehouse, that's not really generating foot traffic and retail use of a commercial that you think. And general commercial is really not a good buffer adjacent to a residential lot. Probably the best commercial zoning district for this type of scenario is what we experienced last meeting, limited commercial, where the intent is to be a buffer between residential and a very high traffic corridor. In this case, we have general commercial abutting a residential suburban. So with the application to initiate a rezone, there are a few stipulations that must be met. One being the combined rezone area must be a minimum of 1 acre, unless they are enlarging an adjacent zoning district, which is the case. It's touching residential suburban to the north, and by rezoning this to suburban residential, we will further just enlarge that. We're not just doing a spot zoning. So that criteria is met, and there's only 2 different property owners between these 4 parcels, and they both signed the application. So you have the majority of the signatures of these property owners. With the proposed, and I just really want to point out as well, I have the land use table. It's hard to see there, but it is in your packet, just pointing out that under the current zoning, general commercial, a residential use is not permitted as a principal use. You must have an established commercial use first in order to then have a residential use. So with that being said, 1206 First Avenue with the existing home, it is a non-conforming use because under general commercial, residential can't be the principal use. So the proposed zoning is residential, suburban residential, and the intent is just to provide medium density, separate residential structures to an extent which all adequate light, privacy, and prohibit uses which violate the residential character of the environment and minimize or do not generate heavy traffic in this area. So while this has been zoned general commercial, I think for almost 10 years, it was a little bit of work to do the research because previously it was rural residential and eventually over time it went to RS and then it evolved to general commercial, and now we're kind of going back in time and going back to the residential. And this would really allow these property owners, the petitioners, to then build the homes by right versus going through, if they do limited commercial, yes, they can do so as a permitted use, but I would just don't think it would be consistent to rezone it to limited commercial and then be right next to general commercial. Either that whole strip should be limited commercial, or the best case scenario in this sense is just rezone it to suburban residential, since to the north is already suburban residential. So there is some consistency there. I try to zoom in a little bit. The reason why I had to postpone this from the last meeting is after reviewing our comprehensive plan and trying to find the actual map. In our current final version right now, it is an incorrect land use map. It shows the land use classification as general commercial, but after going through all of the adopted ordinance, when City Council adopted the final version, this was the latest map, and the applicant, part of the rezone, requested back in 2016 to change her parcels to mixed use, and that was incorporated then. And so I was able to find this latest map. And I know it's really hard to see, but I did try to highlight in red the area of the rezone, and you can see that the area is blue, and if you look at your legend, it's mixed use. With that being said, this proposed rezone from general commercial to suburban residential would still be consistent with the land use classification. Therefore, there's not a it doesn't require a comprehensive plan amendment, meaning an amendment to this land use plan. And this is why it was important for me to take additional time to do further research and confirm this. If it was truly the land use classification was identified as general commercial, we would then be rezoning the zoning district from general commercial to suburban residential and update this land use map in the comp plan from general commercial to medium density or low density residential to be consistent, because this is how we make decisions to guide our future development, is going back to the comp plan and referring to the land use plan. So, as mentioned before, existing use with a single-family home with this proposed rezone, if it is approved, that will bring that single-family home to a conforming. Right now, it's a non-conforming use. If they wanted to enlarge it, alter it, they're very limited because they're subject to the non-conforming use code section. And typically, if they wanted to do that, depending on how large they do it or what's the alteration, it would require a conditional use, which then goes back to your commission for them to make those alterations or addition to their single-family residence in the general commercial zone. So with that being said, staff is recommending your commission recommend approval to council and adopt this resolution, PZ 2023-19, to rezone the properties of the 4 properties listed from general commercial to suburban residential. And I added a next bullet point of next steps of what's next for this after this meeting is your recommendations will then be forwarded to City Council. And then if the rezone is approved by City Council, the submitted preliminary plat that they submitted to planning will then be processed, and then your commission will have a chance to look at it then. So that concludes staff's presentation, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open it up for public testimony. Anyone wishing to testify to PZ 2023-19?
If anyone on Zoom would like to testify, please raise your hand to be acknowledged. If you've joined through the app, press the raise your hand button or press *9 if you've connected through the phone.
All right. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing then and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Any discussion? Commissioner Glendenning.
Thank you, Chairman Twait. Yes, I think this resolution will serve the public well. It'll help the existing landowner with a house to know with certainty that they can repair and maintain their place, and might even have insurance implications for them. And this town needs more inexpensive housing, needs more homes for the people. And if you really look around it, all up and down the road, it's residential. There's houses all the way through, and that's actually one of the older subdivisions in the town, and it always was intended to be and should be going forward residential. And so for those reasons, I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Costin?
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet. So I do know that that lot immediately west is used by drilling operations for support. So there's traffic in and out of there potentially 24 hours a day. I don't know how that might affect the neighborhood, but just the neighbors should know, that people who own that property should know that by now, that it's a rather busy street at some point in time, so.
Agreed, thank you. Any other comments? I've got one for Director Mitchell, I guess, and I just want to have you refresh my memory. So on the 103 Birch property that's general commercial now, is there landscape stipulations as far as how much of the lot you can clear prior to having a site plan and all that kind of stuff? I only ask that because it is cleared, and I assume this will go forward without any problems, but it seems like the cart might have been put in front of the horse just a bit, and maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you, Chair Toy, for that question. In our site plan and landscaping code section, yes, we have stipulations of clearing. Mostly, you're not supposed to clear until you have a site plan landscaping. I did reach out to the property owner, and he was not aware of that stipulation. He has built several other single-family homes on smaller subdivisions, and typically for single-family and two-family residential, you are exempt from the site plan landscape requirements. And so there was the confusion there, but he was well informed that in the future he needed to abide by that.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I don't see any problem with this moving forward. I just thought, just to keep ourselves running down the road straight and narrow, that would be something to make sure they're aware of if they have any of those situations come up. So, Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, isn't it usually that when you have a project, you put a structure in and you put your sidewalks and stuff, the landscaping goes in last? And if you're trying to stage material and build, and you have to work around a bunch of bushes and trees, that could be a safety consideration, but it adds to the cost of the project too. Would it work that if someone needs to landscape, if they present a landscape plan as part of the agreement, and then clear the land so they can work around the edges and put in a dwelling, like in Woodland, where I live, they probably should have cleared out a lot more trees. I have like a less than a quarter-acre lot, and with the latest round of distressed trees and whatnot, I've taken more than 24 out, and all of them needed to go. It was nice and pretty while it was there, but it was a hazard. And I know when I was trying to remodel and do things, the vegetation, the trees did get in the way. So just as a practical consideration going forward for development, if we could have some forbearance and have the developer recognize that landscaping is required and have them commit to a plan that would satisfy the planning department. Does that fit in with your view?
Thank you, Commissioner Glendenning, for that. Yeah, there are best practices on some things. It is interesting that for landscaping, single-family and two-family are exempt from it, because I definitely think we can benefit from all type of uses to do landscaping. But I know that code section has evolved in a lot of ways. We used to have a section about clearing beforehand and informing the city, but then that was omitted to further reduce it. But no, I think when words gets out about how we do business here, I'm always doing pre-applications, and we're seeing a lot more people come in before they even walk on their property. Like we're doing a pre-app next week on site for a daycare, and they have no plan set, and we're meeting with the fire and building official. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Fikes?
No, I think reading through the application, I think it was well thought out and well prepared. It seems like they've gotten quite a bit of extensive input from the neighbors and consideration on the thoughts moving forward. So for those and the code compliance that it seems to meet, I'll be working and voting in favor of it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, we will call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Commissioner Costin?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning?
Yes.
Chair Tweet?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We have no unfinished business, and our new business was taken care of through the consent agenda, so we'll move on now to item I, reports. Iowa City Council and Councilman Dothett. Welcome back.
That was quick. We went through everything so fast tonight. Didn't even get all my notes done yet. Sheesh. So the last council meeting, mostly pretty quick, easy business. There was a resolution that had some conversation about supporting disaster relief for our local set netters. After some discussion, a few couple modifications on that. That was passed unanimously. And then there was some talk about the healthcare costs for the city going up, and that was negotiated down to keep it within reason, but we are seeing some alarming increases in costs, and if the trends keep up, it's going to start to see some budgeting issues, I think, coming up here pretty quick. But for the time being, I think it was about an 8.5% increase in cost right now on increase on that, which is better than it was at first presented. They ended up getting a couple of different bids and then negotiating it down. So that was good. So hopefully that gets underneath there. It was brought up, they're working on doing street light repairs. As always, this time of year that comes about. They're naming a bunch of street lights that are to be repaired, and they're going to come up with a comprehensive plan about what it would take to actually get everything up to snuff and not just patching it together. But we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars most likely to be able to modernize that whole system to hopefully we won't have to do it so much, but we'll see. They're going to come up and crunch some numbers on that. So if anybody asks, they are working on getting those repaired, but some of them are either beyond repair or they're parts on order for thousands of dollars to fix existing lights. There is a proposal coming up about, this is from the city manager, about a $100,000 personal property exemption for businesses in the city. Soldotna does it already, the borough does it, Homer does it, and now I think that's going to be moving forward in Kenai. That should be shooting up pretty shortly. So hopefully it'll help show us that we're business friendly and can continue to move forward with those kind of things. And then those were pretty much the big topic items. Other than that, just the maintenance on the airport, and that's all I've got right now.
Any questions? Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Dothett, I have a question about the discussion and action item, virtual meeting participation. It was discussed. Was any action taken?
No action was taken. That will be revisited in December when the clerk is back. I think the December 20th meeting. They were discussing about eliminating the Zoom altogether possibly, or possibly keeping what we've got. We've gotten some new security features that we're having to pay for that. There was mixed reviews on that, but they're going to wait till the city clerk's back in office and discuss it more thoroughly in December and get some more research. I think Councilman Daniel was going to come up with some other ideas, and he's very well versed on that kind of stuff, so he came up with our options and see what we can come to. Personally, I'm hoping we keep it. I think it's an important tool for people that can't make it to our meetings every day, but that's where that's at, is to get rescheduled for December 20th.
Yeah, was the consideration for quasi-judicial proceedings called out? In other words, we're acting as just one step below district court. Okay, and I think it's important that everybody is here face-to-face and meeting, and the communication is better
was most-
and more secure.
It was mostly in regards to public testimony. They were still going to keep the Zoom participants could still remotely Zoom in for meetings, but it was to come in with the public testimony is what the concern was, if they were going to keep that portion or not. There wasn't a lot of concern about the ability for councils and to be able to testify or Zoom in to make meetings. That hasn't come up as far as percentage of those or anything like that, but this was just mostly the public comment portion to be able to testify as a public comment, which is the harder part to secure.
Yeah, that affects us because we are quasi-judicial at times, and we should have as secure and as tight a discussion as we can. I think there's even concerns, statewide concern regarding quasi-judicial proceedings and who can participate and actually who can even vote. So if that could be looked at, please.
We can look in that for sure. Like I said, can be revisited on the 20th, but they have, what was the, May clerk is going to help me now. What was the name of the new software we just purchased to help out with security that we're in trial phase of?
Sure. So we've been using Zoom meetings. We upgraded to Zoom webinars.
That was what we've just upgraded, and we're on a trial phase of that for, I think it's 3 months, I believe. And it adds security features, but as an additional cost at that. But that's what we're kind of determining on whether we should move forward with completely or just keep at least that section to add that extra layer of security.
Okay, so are we sliding away from in-person participation in these meetings, or you were just talking about participation from testifiers?
That was the biggest thing, is if we're going to keep it for testifying, for people to be able to log in. And in the old style Zoom, where we didn't have all the pre-enrollments that you have to do now, which is what we're doing now, which helps with security reasons, or if we're going to keep the security that we have now, which is at a cost, but it helps us weed out the possibility of being hacked supposedly. It makes it stricter and more secure for everybody as far as not being here and testifying. As far as a council member or a chair member, that wasn't what was coming up. It was just for the public testimony portion of things. There was no change in policy as far as that goes.
Okay, just one more. Yeah, because there is a requirement if someone there's a requirement for certain proceedings that the individual must be present in the chamber and testify I think it's was it for a conditional use permit or something along that nature. We had an instance where an individual found himself unable to come down from Anchorage and couldn't testify. And so it did not advantage him for his presentation. So we might want to just look and see what requirements are there for someone to actually be mandated to be here for testifying, and look at that in your makeup in your procedure too.
Like I said, it wasn't addressing procedures as far as anything like that was going. This was just for the Zoom and security features that we're looking at paying as far as testimony from the general public. That would come down to the director or somebody requiring somebody to be here. That comes down to policies and procedures, not what we're discussing.
Okay.
Any other questions of Councilmember Dothett? All right, seeing none, we will move on then to item I2, Borough Planning. Commissioner Fikes.
The next one is next week, so nothing to report since we were last here.
Very good. Item I3, City Administration, Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Dwight. I'll try to keep it short, but before we head off, I will go ahead and answer Commissioner Glendenning's question about the public hearing requirement. The code did change, I think, when you did the last amendment to include in person or by virtual. So now, the language currently says yes, you have to be present either in person or virtually for your CUP. Otherwise, the CUP will be postponed automatically, is how our current ordinance is written. I thought I should share with you the last time that I was fully staffed, and now I am half staffed again. So that takes me back a little bit on a few things because, you know, in 3 weeks I did try to delegate a lot. So now it falls back on me, try to make sense of where things have fallen. So just bear with me on a few things, and for the delays of staff report, it's just a lot going on. I probably should share with you that the city is doing classification study. So I've been interviewed and we're filling out surveys here in the next couple weeks. Really trying to outlay what this position, my position, does in all aspects, and hopefully help with the classification study that I think will be published hopefully in February of next year. I think on the more exciting news related to the bluff stabilization is on Friday. We got issued the real estate certification, which was something we needed to submit all the documentations to the Army Corps after signing the agreement in order for them to then work forward on soliciting bids. So I was working on that the last week and a half, trying to find all these documentations to provide that we own most of it or have easement rights to the parcels within the bluff. So that is really exciting news because we're going to be seeing preliminary bids by the Corps. But I believe any question would have to be directed at the Corps or either to our Public Works Director regarding that. Other news, building plans for Cassick Brewery was submitted in their landscape plan, so I'll be reviewing that in the next week or so. It's very exciting to see that plan finally get submitted since we had to get an extension earlier this year. So, yeah. And I know that I had mentioned previously that the waterfront rezone was going to be presented tonight, but due to delay with staffing and stuff, and city manager wanting to sit down with our city attorney and make sure that we're moving in a expedited way and make sure that the way we drafted it doesn't bring any issues. So that's we're working a little bit more on the back end, and with new staff trying to get the notices out to kind of really get the engagement level from the property owners. It's kind of been delayed on that part, so I'm working on that as well, but we are trying to move that forward. Other than that, I don't have too much, but happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, we'll leave her alone then. All right, we'll move on to item J, additional public comments. Anyone wishing to come forward? Please come forward. State your name for the record if you could.
It's Keith Schaefer. I live at 104 Birch, and you please forgive me, I got lost in the formality. This property across from my house is going to be changed from commercial to residential. Do I understand correctly?
That's what we have agreed to, yeah. So the council would have the next step in that to approve what we've approved, yeah.
I see. Well, all I can say is this has been eye-opening for me to see how professionally and quickly all of you have acted on this. I do appreciate it very much. I also wanted to add, I wouldn't worry too much about that land clearing over there. It was being used as a restroom for some of my more indiscreet neighbors, and I was quite pleased to see it all knocked down. And I know the project this gentleman has worked on before over on 4th and Holler is a fine-looking bunch of buildings, and I hope he'll continue to do the same. I'm sure he will. But I did want to say thank you to one and all, ladies and gentlemen, for your work on this. Appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We usually don't get those kind of comments, so we like that. Anyone else? All right, then we'll move on to our next meeting on the 22nd of November. Everyone Planning on attending?
Wait, would they? That might be nip and tuck.
Day before Thanksgiving.
That's a maybe for me.
That's a maybe.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Good to know. All right. The rest of us will hold down the fort. All right, commissioners' comments and questions. Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Twait. Yeah, I'd like to thank Councilor Dothit for his fulsome report tonight. It's quite a bit more information than we've been allowed to receive before. And any information, I mean, it's almost like we're working in a silo, out at the end of the runway. And no, you don't need to know about it. Us grown folks are taking care of it, man. But you included us in the discussion and the understanding of how you came to a decision. And just one more thing, if we're going to look at how testimony is given and received, and how we're going to virtually use the modern day equipment, if this group could be included in the discussion, because some of our deliberations are a little bit different in emphasis and structure than the council, and the thought would be approved. Okay?
I would imagine on this that I could see it going before referral to all the boards and commissions for their opinions, and if they feel it's an important tool or something, I could see that coming.
Well, thank you. That's very democratic of you. Small d.
Commissioner Costin.
I'm going to be silent tonight.
That means that half of the room still was the most vocal half, so. Commissioner Greenberg.
I probably should have said this earlier. I don't know why it slipped my mind, but I'm looking back at the zoning, and it looks like there's a split zone in there, right on North Spruce Street. I don't know if it makes sense to visit that at this point, to clean that up. I know that's been something you've talked about in the past.
She said there was no spot zoning though.
I said
Split.
Split. So I don't know if that makes sense. If you look on North Spruce Street, I think I see one there. A lot that's partially general commercial and partially suburban residential.
So I'm aware of that, but that's not included in the rezone. If we wanted to, as a city planning commission, if you would like to fix these split zonings, we can identify them and include them as part of the cleanup. It's my goal to bring forth a bunch of housekeeping cleanups, and we can include these split zones. I do know of a couple split zones in the city that may have been approved in the past, but just never been updated. So I was having one of the other admin go through all the rezones since 2016 and find all the ordinance since then to make sure we clean up what we have already and not redo the work that we've already done. So I can include that in the cleanup.
Sounds good, thank you.
Commissioner Fikes.
All good.
All right. I have nothing other than to further jump on Commissioner Glendenning's concern about testifying and calling in. Right now, we're not allowed to participate remotely on any quasi-judicial, correct?
Yes.
Right. We can do the legislative stuff and participate and vote, but not the quasi-judicial. Is that the same? Is council the same?
I think it's the same as council? No?
No, they have more flexibility.
They're allowed to participate? Okay.
I don't think so.
On the judicial side, I don't know. I can't remember.
No, we have the same concerns.
Megan will take you to the mat over that. I can tell she knows what she's talking
no,
about.
it can't. No, we've excluded, unless I haven't been in it for a year, but unless we've changed our procedures. If we have say for example we get overturned on something, and the council takes it up de novo, that is quasi judicial. the same policy and procedures and rules have to follow. We have to be here present, and we have to meet in private and discuss, and we can't have disembodied voices joining us. Everybody has to be present. That's going to be there and vote.
Go ahead.
So just to clarify, so you're asking about virtual, like remote electronic participation during executive session or during Board of Adjustment hearings specifically, or is that what your question is?
Yeah, things that are quasi judicial. Executive session, that's kind of a gray area. We didn't used to, and I think there was an extreme case where we allowed it, and I don't know what's being pushed forward now. But for quasi judicial, yeah, we have to meet in person.
Apologize, I misunderstood. I would have to check the policy on that to see. It's off the top of my head. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not.
Yeah, all the training and
yeah.
feedback I've got, that's as Jeff has said. So.
All right, to be continued. And nothing else, the business complete, the meeting is adjourned.